All right, Jim Losinski, where are we today?
Today we're out of our element. I have no idea where we are. You just pulled a rabbit out of the hat, said we're going to go someplace. So I got to call in an expert from a different county to come in and help us. I can see Trempealeau County, but we're not in Trempealeau County.
Okay, so where are we? Tell me who this is.
This is Roger Ziegler. He's going to be assisting us on our video here today. And he's a neutral man because he was in Buffalo County. Now he resides in La Crosse County. And we're from Trempealeau County. So it kind of evens out so that county police won't be after us because we're out of our jurisdiction.
So Roger, where are we today then?
Well, we are on near the east channel of the Black River and the Black River bottoms down here off to my left. This is the Van Loon State Wildlife Area. It has been like that for a number of years. The original farmer to sell it was named Van Loon, so it was named after him. There's like 4,000 acres down here of swamp. There's deer hunting, trapping, fishing a little bit, but mostly we're on this trail right now, and we're going to be hiking the trail. The trail is 1.8 miles long, and it has 6 bridges. Originally had 7, but the main bridge across the Black River was taken out years ago. So with a cloudy day, we're going to see what we can see today.
So where we are now, this is part of the Van Loon Wildlife Area here in La Crosse County. And most people know it as 7 Bridges. And maybe Jim wants to fill us in a little bit on the history of this area.
Well, as you know, the early trappers and traders, even the surveyors, when they came into Wisconsin here, they had to get some way across the Black River bottoms. And unless you were kind of born with wings, you had a couple options. One, you hoped you could find maybe an old Indian fort, someplace where they had been crossing the river, because you had to roll up pant legs and run your way through the bottoms here. And I said, if you were just on foot, moving along with a small amount of equipment, you could do it. You'd get across the river.
Yeah.
But when Wisconsin started to be settled, then you're, say, a blacksmith, you're coming with an anvil. Well, you certainly don't want me walking across the river with an anvil, you know. I mean, you might find a sandbar and let you partially across, but you're going to be in trouble. The same thing with a guy with a general merchandise store or something like that. Too much stuff to bring at one time. What these people needed was a ferry. And by gosh and by golly, I says, we did luck in with a few ferries set up early in Trempealeau County's history and in La Crosse County's history. There were 2 fords along this river. One is on the end of this trail that we're going to look at today. And I said another one is up at Decorah Prairie, where the Hunter's Bridge where Hunter's Bridge is today.
Yeah. And that was Gordon's Ferry.
That was Gordon's Ferry.
Yeah.
And here we were kind of blessed with a guy that was born in Scotland. Alex McGilvray.
Yes. Yeah.
McGilvray was born in Scotland, 1804, if I'm not mistaken. And it says, you look into history, I always say, you got a document. Well, I looked at a couple of documentations. One says he died in 1878, another one said he died in 1887. So the numbers could be just transposed a little bit.
That's quite a difference, so about 10 years.
And then they turned around and one said he had 5 sons and 1 daughter, and the other one said he had 4 sons and 1 daughter. So we can agree he was born after 1800, died before 1900, and he had some children.
Okay.
But he moved from Scotland. He went to Nova Scotia, Canada. And from Nova Scotia, he migrated down into Wisconsin, 1851. By 1852, he was over in Trempealeau. He had set up. In 1853, he had his family here with him, and he had bought some land just west of the Black River here in Caledonia. In the winter of 53 and 54, he and Charles Utter got together and they constructed a ferry. They made a ferry boat.
And that was in Trempealeau, right?
In Trempealeau.
Yeah.
And in the spring of 54, they dragged it down over here with horses, and they started a ferry going across. The early farmers that were here already had a field road, and there was a ford down here where they crossed. So I said it made sense to put a ferry there when the road was going through and the farmers were utilizing the bottoms here. So I said there was a trail to get there. So in 1854, he set up a ferry. And to ride the ferry, it costed you 25 cents for a team and a wagon. Or if you had 4 horses in the wagon, it was 35 cents. or if it was just 2 people or on your foot, it was 10 cents. So I said he prospered. He started out first, the boat that they had was a small one, and they just shoved it across with poles.
Yeah, they said they had to pole it across.
Long poles.
Yes.
They poled it across. Then after that, he got a few coins in his pocket, I suspect, and he turned around, he got a rope. And he had a decent rope across.
Yeah.
Well, then he got a hold of a blacksmith, and they made a 3/4-inch rod linked
Cable. Huh?
cable-like
Yeah.
to string across. And that
Right.
went for a number of years until finally he got a steel cable. And he had a cable. So then the ferry operated for almost 40 years here, 38,
Yeah.
going a little bit better than 40 years. Alex, being I said, of his age, he could not participate in the Civil War, although he was very patriotic. So as his gesture toward the war, he never charged a soldier for transportation across the Black River. He always let them go free. They had built a little bit of a town on the other side of the
Right,
ferry
right.
landing.
Yeah, he was an entrepreneur. He had
He
a
had an inn,
hotel or inn, whatever you want to
a
call
place
it.
for spirits.
Yep. Yeah.
But he said that the veterans, he allowed them to stay overnight. He did not charge them. He fed them a meal. He says first the veterans came across. He said they're all going to war. After a while, they're coming back. He says a lot of them missing limbs and casualties of war. He said
Yeah.
one particular veteran, Alex's son, was recalling. He says the guy came, he was missing an arm, a leg, and he had a head wound.
Oh, geez.
And they kept him overnight here. He stayed at the inn. Next day, Alex made sure he had transportation to get him to Trempealeau so he didn't have to walk down to Trempealeau. But I said, they had good luck with the ferry sometimes. Because what happens here, well, in winter, water would freeze and then you wouldn't have to have the ferry. You could walk
Yeah.
across the ice. Rankin, the son, he says at one time, he says, the load of lumber came from Trempealeau with a team. They sent them across. Within 24 hours, the men were coming back with the empty wagon. Well, it had frozen enough that they could walk across, and the horse and the wagon only had to be hauled on the ferry. There wasn't enough ice to get across. So those guys saved themselves
They
20,
saved some money.
20 cents. So that's it. They were thinking, you know.
I got to stop you here because I've got an Alexander McGilvray story that I have to tell you.
Okay.
Because, like you said, he was a real patriotic guy. He was a Scot. It said like about 1860 in Galesville, they were going to have the 4th of July ceremony and everything. And there weren't that many people in Galesville at that time. But they were there, and the deal was they were supposed to have an orator that would give them this stirring speech, and then they were going to march, I don't know, someplace and put up a flag. Well, the orator that they got turned out he had been imbibing, let's say. And he wasn't able to give his speech. Well, they were really disappointed. But they thought, well, we'll still march, to the flag. And as they started to do that, they heard this sound. And it was Alexander McGilvray playing his bagpipes, marching into town. That totally saved the day.
Well, like I said, there were some characters here. But the son was saying, he says, one of the scourges of having a ferry were the loggers from up north.
Well, yeah, that really complicated things.
He says sometimes a log rafting coming down the river in the spring like that, he said, would hold you up for an hour, maybe a day or two, he says. But in particular years, he says in 1885, he said they decided it's expensive to have men raft these things all the way to La Crosse.
Right.
So they put a log boom across by Lytle's Landing, which is about 2.5 miles maybe south of us by the crow flies.
As the crow flies, yeah.
And they decided, well, we'll put a log boom through and we'll only let enough log go through with a mill can handle per day. So then we don't have to have manpower there
They ran a chain, they said.
to stop it. And they had it backed up to the quarry, which was almost 7 miles of logs here.
Yeah.
And one other article I read, they said one time it was backed up all the way to Black River, which was over 35 miles of logs.
Wow. That's,
One particular year, they said it was September before the ferry could operate because there was logs up to 20 feet
yeah, what
deep.
were you going to do? You couldn't operate if you had all those logs in the river.
So over the years, the ferry was used, I said, and the people utilized it here. The farmers were making different loads of grain and shipping because it was a lot closer to cut to the bottom than it was on up to the Galesville, to the Hunter Bridge crossing to get around. Because you figure with a horse, you're going maybe 4 miles an hour, and here you got to go an extra 3-4 miles.
Yeah.
And daylight saving time, he wasn't around, but the days were getting shorter because the harvests were in the fall. So here you lose 2 hours because you're running one way and coming back down to get to Trempealeau, to get your products to the river to get them sold. So they always were using the ferry. The ferry did well until finally 1892.
Yeah.
They said, wait a minute, you know, every spring it floods here, we get high water, the bridges need to be repaired, we got to do some work. They decided they're going to construct a bridge across the Black River. Wasn't the best idea maybe for the ferries, but it was maybe better with oncoming of cars and faster vehicles. We're going to fix this road up a little bit. So they awarded a contract to the Clinton Bridge Works. And with $7,650, they're going to build a 254-foot bridge across the Black River.
Now that's the one.
Bridge 7, as Roger had referred to.
Bridge 7.
Yeah.
So Bridge 7 was built across the Black River. And the contract was awarded 31st of July, 1891, and they had to have it completed by November 1st.
Of the same year?
The same year, yes.
Wow.
So I said, these guys had to be kind of building sort of fast.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well,
was it just a wooden bridge?
no, I believe it was a steel bridge.
The first one, okay.
And they turned around and I said, I believe they completed their bridge, but they also decided to put 8 new wooden bridges here through the bottoms across some of the low spots and rebuild it. So they had put in these bridges also. So they had the grand christening in February. So I believe the bridge probably made it, but probably with the rest of the construction, it kind of maybe held the road up a little bit. But it was done by February. Then over the years, it was utilized and used, and there was some maintenance done, but there always was a little friction. Town of Holland didn't really have the money. La Crosse County didn't want to spend a lot, neither did because it's taxes, you know. Trempealeau County, the same thing, you know. So nobody really wanted to put money into these roads. It's still like nowadays.
Well, it was interesting too, because I was reading, like I think it was 1916, there was a big flood on the Black River. It took out half of Black River Falls. I mean, if you see pictures, it's this, the bottom part of Black River Falls is gone. But that, of course, all that water came down and really made a mess down here in the bottoms and well.
Yep.
And that was why they were talking in 1919, are we going to keep this road and these bridges, and how much money is it going to cost to keep them?
Yep.
And Town of Holland said, we can't afford this, just let it rot, you know. It was very controversial.
Yeah, but like I said, in 1905 until 1908, they put in 5 steel bridges to replace some of the wooden ones that had deteriorated in over a matter of a few years. Because in 92, they put in 8 new bridges, and by 05, they already were taking them out. So some of these bridges were going out.
Yeah.
And these new bridges were put in were a bowstring thrust type.
And that's,
We'll go down and we'll look at some of them. And they put these new bridges in, and they were out of La Crosse Bridge Company. And that was run by Charles Houghton. And he had a special design. Roger will show us a little later on. What he designed on his bridges, which he thought would make them stronger, and they took a lot of traffic, did a lot of work for many years. Well, the bridges and the roads went on, and the flooding happened every spring, and finally it gets around 1948, and the DOT and the townships and the counties and yeehawed back and forth, and the new Highway 35 was built south of here, or 93, and then we had 93, 35. We got the 2 bridges here. So they decided they're going to discontinue this bridge.
and I got to stop you here again too, because when those new bridges, my dad was an engineer on that project. And I was, you know, a real little kid, but he would come home at night with stories of the mosquitoes and snakes, and it was tough. It was really a tough project.
Well, they built those 3 bridges, and now I guess we're looking at doing them again now. A little controversy because they're thinking they may close the road for 2 years, 18 months.
Yeah.
So there might be a little bit of friction here yet before this gets done going around. But anyhow, they rebuilt the bridges here. We had them fixed up, and then they start falling apart. When 48, they said, well, we're not going to use this road no more. So they closed the bridge at the end of the Pioneer Trail down here. Well, in 54, they took the bridge right out. Then slowly, over time, the bridges have slowly been falling apart, deteriorating, the spring floods, no money being stuck in here, and finally it becomes a safety issue. because the bottoms are used here for hiking and for
Yeah,
fishing and trapping.
sure.
And people were traveling down here still using the old roadway. And finally they just said, I guess we're going to have to rip the bridges out. And that kind of got underneath the birds of a few people around here, and they started a friends group. And this friends group did everything but take on second jobs to raise funds to save the bridges. And I said, that's where Roger got involved. He did a lot of repairs on these bridges. He does a lot of work. He does maintenance on it now. And he maybe could tell us a little bit about some of the work they've done here on the bridges and how they raise funds and a little bit more history here than we know at the top of our head because we're in the wrong county.
Well, that was actually before my time here.
Jesus, that's really way back. No.
Yeah, because I actually did move to this area in 2016.
Okay.
And so I became a volunteer in 2017. So what I've done down here is to replace the decking. I cut all the trees that fall on the trail. I mow it down here. I also mow the bypasses around here. And I move gravel and a little bit of sand and try to fill the holes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
That's a big job.
yeah, so that's what I do.
Yeah.
As far as way back in the 1990s when they were bringing these
89,
bridges
90.
back up with cranes and stuff like that, I really wasn't involved in that.
Well, they had to repair the bridges here. They tore them down. I think Nancy will have some pictures she can post online here. The condition of the bridges was questionable, to say the
Yeah,
least.
yeah. Some of them were actually completely falling down.
Bridge 6 was falling, I believe, right into the channel. Bridge 5 was a King Post bridge that had been replaced in 1920, I believe, and there's something about a fire or something.
Yeah, that one burned down.
I
So
don't
they
know,
brought
a bridge
in
where
a,
water would start on
that was a
fire.
wooden bridge yet.
Oh, okay.
That was still a wooden bridge. That
So it had
never
to be
made bowstring, so.
It had to be replaced, and somebody
Yeah.
pulled a rabbit out of the hat, and they got a bridge from Pierce County.
Yeah.
Yes,
And they brought
I
it
remember
down here.
hearing about that.
And
Yeah.
I don't know how they, 2 men on each end or something, but somehow they got it down here. Bridge 5 isn't exactly handy right here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they did some work to get this thing down, but I said the work and everything done on these bridges is just phenomenal. And the people that come here, I said this morning, we've probably had a dozen cars stop
Yeah,
and
just
go already. I
pulling
said
in and out of here.
they're walking dogs and they're getting ready here for the deer season
Yep.
coming up.
Yep.
So I think what we should do is let's mosey down here and look at some of these bridges here that Charles Houghton had designed and see what he had for
Sure.
a special idea there.
All
And
right.
Roger will talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm real slow on stairs. I got kind of a funky leg.
Go down backwards.
Yeah.
We put this in May. No, June. June, I think we put these in. Yeah, those are brand new.
A nice set of stairs here built
They
here. I
are.
said, if the trail is well maintained, I says, there are places along the trail yet where you can still see some of the old road from the original
Yeah.
building.
There's a piece here and there of blacktop yet.
There
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, here and there.
There was some money stuck in these bottoms
yeah,
and stuff.
there
I
is
don't
a
know
little
if this is
bit.
a log road underneath. Probably in places it's possible.
It's
think so?
actually limestone. They took limestone off the hills here.
Yeah.
And every now and then you can find the rocks, just like a wing dams, like they did in the Mississippi River
Okay,
back in the
okay.
in the
They build them
1900s, where they made the big walls. They literally did the same thing here. You find the limestone all over the place. That's what the bed is. The bed is just big rocks.
And not necessarily logs then.
No, it's rock.
Huh. Okay, now we walked down here a little ways. What bridge are we on?
We are on Bridge 1.
Okay, and it's the bowstring
Yeah,
bridge.
it's a bowstring bridge.
Uh-huh.
And it's got the way the bowstring works is that as you have a bow on it, just like a bow,
Yeah.
you can put a lot more weight on it because it won't just collapse on you, just like an arch. And so the way this is built, also, you won't see any holes in this frame. So the bow here of the I-beams is very strong. And as you can see, this bracket here, which has a bolt here holding these iron cables, not really iron cables, what would you call them?
Rods, square rods, round rod, yeah, I guess whatever he had.
Which goes down to the
Cross
point down here, a cross point, and which is holding up the stringers in here, which is holding up the beams, the boards here, the decking. And so...
yeah, this has all been hand forged or else hand welded. This could have been blacksmith welded probably. There was no electric welded back in 05 and 08.
Right, that would have been...
So this would have been blacksmith. That's another program you'll have to do with Nancy. Take them and show them how a blacksmith can weld irons together.
Right,
But
yeah.
when Charles Houghton
Something I do
designed
all
this,
the time.
when he designed this, I said it was probably the bridge of the day with plenty of power for weight. But I don't think there's a lot of these left, are there, Roger? You know?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
I think I read an article somewhere where it said there's only like 3 other places in Wisconsin that has one of these bridges.
Oh.
Wow. So these are really unique.
Yep.
They're unique, I said, and they were totally ready for the graveyard. Some are double arch, some are single arch because the bridge is longer or shorter.
Bridges 1, 2, 3, and 4 are double arch, and bridge 6 is single arch.
So I said they were designed because of the length of the span they went over here. But the Black River keeps flooding these bottoms every spring. I said the farmers would work this because they would harvest the Timothy hay. And horses got to have, not gotta, but horses usually got Timothy because Timothy has less dust. The other crop they had was clover, and clover is dusty hay. Like one neighbor of mine said, he said the easy way to make clover, you cut the hay, you wait for 3 rains, it's ready to go. He said, you just can't dry clover, it likes to mold, it's dusty. Horses can't take dust. So Timothy was the horsepower food of the day, and these bottoms grew good Timothy due to the fact, I said, that they got flooded every spring. They brought in fertilization, they brought in seed. And these bottoms would grow tall, they'd harvest the seed off of it, and they took the hay up. Sometimes they left it in the bottoms here on the high ground and took it out with sleds. But otherwise, they took it up to their farms here in the prairie. And on the sharp sand, fertility wasn't good. But the extra hay they had and the byproduct of the cattle eating the hay was spread on the prairies and increased the fertility in the prairies. So it was a double bonus by working these bottoms. So the farmers were pretty proud that they were contributing to their own farm, doing good for the community. And this bridge of here, this bridge road, was one of the doggone things that really helped the county survive and the farmers to get established here in this area.
Well, another thing when I was, researching this, I was talking about the farmers from Caledonia and Trempealeau wanted a way to get like their livestock to market. And in those days, you didn't put them in the back of a truck. You drove them, even, pigs.
Yeah.
They drove them. And so Winona and La Crosse were both kind of, angling to get the livestock and the sales from these farmers. So it was kind of controversial about these bridges were going to help La Crosse, not Winona. And it was interesting, though.
Well, like I said, there was a lot of money and time put in these bridges, but I said when they got discontinued in 1948, they started going into disrepair. Finally, it was going downhill here, and they're going to all be condemned for the safety purposes. People just couldn't walk on them. Bridges were only about half the width they should have been. But the Friends group got together in 1989, and they started petitions and fundraisers and whatever you could possibly think of. They raised funding to redo the bridges. And they had volunteers, and unfortunately some of them have passed away. It's been a number of years now. But the volunteers came forward and they helped rebuild these bottoms. And it wasn't an overnight project.
No,
but it was done.
It took years.
Yeah.
But it was done, bridge after bridge, and the bridge companies, different companies came. And there's a book. Nancy will show that book later in this film. He'll tell you how you can get that book. And it helps support the work that's being done here in the bridge and to maintain what's down here. The hiking trail here is great. I said the people are in here this morning.
It's a lot of use.
Yeah, there's fishing. There's guys went down here already seen. They're setting up for bow hunting, which will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I said there's a lot of use out of here. Walking dog, that's pet friendly. It's no vehicles on this road. which makes sense. I said, we're trying to maintain it. And I said, somebody will start, won't take long, he'll be off the road driving someplace else.
Yeah.
It's a strictly hiking trail. And I said, it's nice, quiet here, good place for photography. So anyhow, we're kind of done with this edge of the bridge here.
We can walk down to the
We
next
can maybe
one.
meander down the
Yeah.
bridge too and take a little look over there. And
What is this actually crossing here? Is this a creek or
This,
just a...
this is the East Channel, or new channel, according to the maps. And right now, there's enough water from the recent rains we've had, to have water come down.
Okay.
Normally, there's always water running through here. There's a number of springs coming off these hills here
sure.
that exist right up in this bend up here. And so you always see some minnows and stuff down here. And the kingfisher is always landing in the trees here and fishing down here. So you always see that type of bird here.
And over here on the south side of the bridge, you can see there's a crossing made. Somebody made a little bit of a bypass.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's there's a reason for that.
And that is to maintain, the DNR has me maintain that. I'm one of the guys that maintains the trail down here. And they always have me keep this mode on all the bypasses. The reason is because these bridges are only rated for 1,000 pounds. And so I've seen more weight on that with just people, but they are rated for only 1,000 pounds.
And this bypass was also put in when they put 2 men on each end of bridge number 5. They pulled that bridge across that bypass. There was a, you could say almost a little city set in Caledonia right off the bridge when the ferry was here. They had a blacksmith shop, they had
They
the
tried,
tavern,
yeah.
they plotted it out, they had everything done. And I believe there even was a little bit of a kiosk kind of a thing on this side of the river.
Marking it? Yeah.
Somebody was trying to sell a few things on this side to the travelers that were using the ferry getting across. They're always somebody out to make a buck, I
That's
tell you.
right.
You got to give them credit on that. Let's meander down a little bit
let's go
toward the
down to
second
the
bridge.
next one.
Oh,
Now we're on bridge number 2. And this is not over a channel. You said it's over a...
Just a pond.
Okay.
This is just
okay.
a pond. And when we have high water, the high water comes from the East Channel, from Bridge 1, and comes right through the woods here, and just goes through here, and it goes right down through that way. And then what happens sometimes in the spring, the water gets high enough, it actually brings a few fish in here. So
I'll bet.
a few people catch some nice perch in here.
Really?
And there's always bullheads. There's hundreds of bullheads and turtles and frogs and all that stuff in there. But a few perch get moved in there. There is perch in the Black River and a few northern pike, but not that many. And the northern pike only get about 2 foot long. That's the biggest ones I've ever seen in there.
And this water is black, and the Black River gets its name, you know, how it gets covered, how it got colored.
I suppose the pine trees from the tannin.
The tannin, especially in the oak trees and things.
You betcha.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
betcha.
and that's why it's so black, and it is.
Yeah.
So this is, again, another bow.
Double bow bridge,
Double
just
bow
like the
bridge.
last one.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, the footings and stuff, I said a lot of these bridges, before they were all repaired here by the Friends group, the water had come off to the bridge, maybe blockage from some logs or something, took out the footings on each side, everything started to fail. Bridge number 6, which I'm not going to walk down there today. It might snow before we get to that end.
Well, that's true.
Bridge number 6 down there, it had, like Roger had mentioned, had fallen right into the channel. And they had to get down there and lift it and repair it. It was all twisted almost beyond recognition. But I said it was done. Bridge number 5 brought in from Pierce County. I believe that's about a 60-foot bridge. I'm not sure the size of all these bridges
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Roger has got all those numbers in his head.
This one is 16 foot wide of the beams, or the planks that are on here. I think this one's 130 feet long.
So each bridge is a different size depending on the span it's got to cover here, you know.
Right.
Yep.
But I said the work involved in repairing these bridges and the devotion by these people is just something else, because it's another little secret here, and not exactly in Trempealeau County, but it's easy to get to. It's close to Trempealeau County. And it's well worth the trip. I said to come down there. I said to get the book even and read the history of it and help support the maintenance of these bridges, because it does take money to keep things going.
Oh,
I said
gosh,
some
I can
days I know they had to do some repair on one of the bridges. Some of the splicing pieces were starting to fail, and they noticed it ahead of time. And it's easier to fix it before it falls apart. The old stitch in time saves 9 kind of a thing. So I said, some of it has to be still maintained. It has to be checked every year. So there's still work involved in these bridges. They're not going to last forever. So we got to enjoy them while we can.
Yep.
And long as people pick up their rubbish, do what they do to enjoy themselves down here, and it'll be here for many, many years. It's for people to remember.
And probably a good idea. Don't wander off down into the bottoms unless you know where you're going.
Yeah, but a lot of people, including myself, we snowshoe down here.
Ah, okay.
And one of the things about snowshoeing you have to be very careful with, the river has created many, many channels, up to like 3 feet deep. And they're just straight down banks.
Oh.
And so sometimes, yes, I've seen this where I'm walking along and it's filled with snow and all of a sudden your foot just collapses down because of the way the channel has been created from the high water. And it just cuts little channels, and it changes every year. And the beaver even changed them every year. So where there used to be more water under Bridge 1 here, now most of the water goes under Bridge 4.
Wow.
And so that has
Something to think about.
really has changed over the years.
Well, I think, shall we walk back up again?
I think we'll wander back because there might be some farmer bringing. They could be bringing wheat. They could be bringing barley.
They could be driving hogs.
They could be driving cattle and hogs down this bridge, and we're going to be in the way and disrupting the whole system.
That's
So
right.
Okay, on our way back.
we're going to meander on our way back and do a little bit more closing out there.
I've got a picture I have to show you. It's of downtown Black River Falls, and they're driving this immense herd of hogs right down, the main street. And that was, probably the 1890s or whatever. But I don't even know how you would have crossed the street then. It was all these hogs. That must have been
See,
fun.
here's another one, the bypasses.
Yes.
And we'll go all the way down to the end of this pond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Table is for lightning.
Okay, we have gone down to at least 2 of the bridges here in the 7 bridges, walk. And we're going to kind of wrap it up here, and then we're going to move and go over towards where the big bridge that went across McGilvray from the McGilvray Ferry. So we'll leave the Van Loon wildlife area here. And I want to thank Roger for coming along and helping us out. And I hope people take advantage of this.
Yes, because I said there's a lot of history here on the edge of the Black River. And I said in La Crosse County, every county, I said that we've been promoting Trempealeau County, but doesn't mean you have to stop in Trempealeau. Just keep on going.
And if you've got any interest in engineering, come down and look at these bridges. You're going to love it.